Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Hello, everybody. Should I change my angle? Let me get back a little bit, maybe. I don't know how far this microphone will stretch, but there we go. Headroom's a little better. Okay. Sorry for all the audio. I'm just trying to make sure that everything... Oh, yep. Okay. Just trying to make sure that everything is going correctly. I am trying to live stream this on YouTube and on Twitch. So just making sure that everything is going the way it is supposed to. So... Hello humans, it's Trish, and I am back at it again, here for another podcast. And I did draw up a cheat sheet just so I could stay on topic a little bit, because it's definitely different doing a podcast by yourself. I have another podcast with my sister, and usually, most of the time it definitely helps to have someone that is keeping you on check. So I have a little cheat sheet, but this is the Trippin with Trish podcast, and today we're going to be talking about healing and why it doesn't always look as pretty as some people make it seem. Now, this episode is called Healing Isn't Pretty, but It's Worth It. Now, in my last episode, I did talk to you guys about the whole reason why I started this podcast. I told you guys a little bit about my history, told you guys a little bit about the people in my life that influenced me to get into cannabis in the first place. And, I talked about my mental health issues. If you didn't listen to the last episode, I am bipolar. And it definitely made me look into healing more, especially natural healing, because I was Baker acted at 16. I feel like I discussed this a little bit in the last podcast, but just to bring you up to speed, I was Baker acted, was diagnosed with bipolar, and was immediately put on meds. Now, for certain issues, of course, it is good to get on medication, especially depending on what type of bipolar disorder or other mental health disorders. It can help balance the chemicals in your brain, which can make going through life a lot less heavy. So I figured I would talk a little bit more in depth about healing and why natural healing has become such a big part of my life and my journey, and why it's one of my biggest passions. So a big point I wanted to make is that social media shows the soft side of healing, but not the breaking part. And healing isn't necessarily about candles and crystals and incense and, positive quotes and, all of those things that on social media a lot of people like to hype up as far as healing, because that's, again, the pretty side of healing. That's the aesthetic side. But true healing, it'll have you grieving people that are still alive. It'll have you questioning yourself, your worth, the confusion, the loneliness. You start cutting people out of your life. There's a lot of things that happen with healing that you wouldn't necessarily think of right away. And, a part of what I wanted to talk about is that growth, it feels like loss before it feels like freedom. So that's tying into the loneliness, the cutting people out, the focusing on what truly brings you happiness. And the thing people don't realize a lot of times is that healing is, like, true healing is uncomfortable. It's going to make you feel extremely uncomfortable. You're going to have to confront yourself, your emotions, your triggers, your trauma. And that work isn't easy work. It's difficult. It's hard to navigate healing in a world that we live in. And especially when you search for help, you search for inspiration in your healing journey, a lot of times you're met with an illusion. And a lot of times you think that healing is going to be so beautiful, and you see all these trips to Bali or Thailand, and people are taking these beautiful, like, healing retreats, and that is a part of it. I'll give credit where credit is due. One of the things that heals me the most is nature. I love nature. I'm definitely more pagan than anything. I lean more towards Wiccan. I'm not trying to get into a religion discussion. That might be something that I'll do down the road. But nature is where I feel the most connected to whatever's out there. It's, consuming cannabis. It's being out in nature. It's, enjoying natural ways of healing. Like, art is a really big thing for me. Expression is one of the most natural healing things you can do. Writing, dancing, singing, crafting, there's so many cooking, like, there's so many things that are art that we don't realize, and things that can heal us through expression. But social media, when you're seeking advice and help, a lot of it is really pretty and foo-foo, but it's not showing you necessarily the hard parts, and most of that is going to come from you. You're going to have to do the work to dig deep and truly confront yourself and your demons and the things that you can improve on, because there are people that love you and care about you that'll be honest with you and tell you to your face, like, hey, this isn't cool. This is something you will work on. True, genuine friendships, the people in your life will do that for you. They'll call you out on your bullshit. And some people don't have that. Some people don't have people in their life that'll be real with them. So they live in this illusion of what they think is healed. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I, only have so much room to talk because I'm still very much in my healing journey. And I would never want to discredit anyone else's healing journey. So I do want to clarify that, obviously there are ways to heal with candles and crystals, but it's mostly the intention that you're putting behind it. If you're just doing it because you think that it's something that'll help and work, it's not really going to do that. Like, a big part of healing is your mindset. You have to believe that you can. You have to think that you're deserving enough to do the work. And like I said, one of the biggest parts of healing is coming to terms with who you are and your behavior and the way you treat others, and looking on the outside in and seeing what you can improve on, what you can work on to be a better person. Healing is becoming a better person, and you're never too far gone. You're always able to heal. And with my own personal experience, I started out as such a people pleaser. I think a lot of it stemmed from childhood. Having an angry parent where I felt like I always had to please them and do what they said to make sure that they, still loved me. Like, there's a lot of trauma and a lot of mental health things backed behind that. But regardless, I just wanted to kind of preface where that people-pleasing tendency comes from for me personally. And I feel like I meet a lot of people that are in that mindset, and a lot of times they don't want to confront where it comes from. And that's only part of the journey. Being able to pinpoint where something stems from as far as your behavior or trauma response, and being able to fully work through it. So I would say in the last 6 years, I've done a lot of healing. I have lost a lot of people I care about. I have gone through 3 hurricanes where 2 of them completely destroyed my house. I've had to pick myself back up multiple times. I got married and divorced. I was single for quite a while in between my last relationship and the one before that. I did a lot of self-discovery. I found things about myself that I needed to work on. And, I can admit I probably wasn't fully where I needed to be before I got into my last relationship. And I can know that now looking back, that I definitely went too quick. And, I really believed in what my partner was telling me. And, it's hard to come to the realization that someone isn't who you think they are. And that fits a lot of different aspects in life, whether it be family, friends, teachers, just people in your life. You got, one of my favorite sayings is, people will show you who they are and it's up to you to believe it. And I think that is one of the most beneficial quotes to live by as someone who has people-pleasing tendencies, because it kind of reframes things for you in a way that makes you think more so about what you handle and what you take from other people. Because when it comes to your relationships with others, you're showing them how they should treat you with what you put up with. And when you love someone, when you care about someone, when you see their potential, you put up with a lot more than you should. And, that's speaking from experience, but I've also seen it in other people's lives that I care about deeply. And, we have blinders on when it comes to certain people. But 9 times out of 10, our gut was telling us something was off before our brain was able to catch up to it. So I just want to reiterate that it's extremely important to trust your intuition. That is the biggest thing I've learned in the last 6 years of my healing journey, is you have an initial feeling about something. And a lot of times we'll rationalize it. We will, make excuses for something. And I think that's really detrimental to our healing journeys. So, even if it seems like something small, if someone gives you a bad feeling, if something seems off, if you just get that pit in your stomach, you're completely entitled to cut that person off. And coming from someone with people-pleasing tendencies, you get in your head a lot. You're like, oh, well, they could have meant it this way, they could have meant it that way, da-da-da-da-da-da, why, ABC. And I think that we need to learn more about being our own advocate when it comes to situations like that. Because a lot of times you think, oh, I'm a good person, I treat people well, people know that I care about them and they're going to treat me the same way. But that's not always the case. People have their own lives. People are going to be their own people regardless of how you treat them. So seeing someone at face value and trusting your gut when something happens and it doesn't sit right with you will save you a lot of pain. And, that's just the honest truth. It's hard, but it's true. So I just kind of want to pause and take a second to talk about something that I'm really proud of that helped me through my healing journey, and that was writing my poetry book. And, it took a long time. I had this idea 6 years ago before Hurricane Ian. I had this idea to write a poetry book, and it was a collection of all my poetry from childhood, from when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It was, after learning that I had the issues that I had and coming to terms with it. It was a way to express myself. It started with journaling. And then I started realizing that some of the lines I was writing in my journal were quite poetic. So I figured, why not? Why shouldn't I dive into this? So I started writing, and that's when my passion started. And I have always had a passion for creativity in any capacity. And I was able to hold on to a lot of my poetry. I'm sorry if you guys see me doing something. I'm trying to find a poem to read to you guys because, I really want to share, just some of the way I've felt in my past. And I know that a lot of times sharing things like that can help you heal and help you move on. And, it'll just help to kind of share a little poem. And this one is called Grass. This is something I wrote in middle school, and it's kind of fitting for this podcast, so I figured this would be the one I'd read. So it's really stupid and silly, but I figured someone would find some joy in it. So pretty sure I wrote it on the bus on the way home from school. The grass is always greener when it's dead. That's why I love to wear it on my head. I like it in my mouth, that's what she said. So everyone, smoke some grass instead. Now, does that poem make any sense? I don't think so. But was it entertaining, and was I probably high when I wrote it? Yeah, probably. But yeah, so that's just one of the many poems you can find in my poetry book. It is called Poems from a Young Bipolar, and you can find it on Amazon. I can drop the link if you guys are curious. But yeah, I just wanted to use that as an example for a way that I, prefer to heal myself. Like I said, expression is one of the biggest things for me, and I would have to say writing is that biggest outlet for me because it's the basis of so many things. I like to write songs, poems, I like to write scripts, I like to write stories, I just like to journal and process emotions. So writing is probably my biggest tool. It's also the basis for storytelling, and storytelling is a huge passion of mine. So I really like to relay the message of how important it is to find an expressive outlet. Because especially with men, you're raised to believe that you're not allowed to be in touch with your emotions, and that's weakness. But I'm hoping that a lot of men are coming to the realization that that's actually the opposite, and you're a lot stronger when you are in touch with your emotions, because when you're not, you react, you act on impulse, you act on, your emotions, and you come from a much more healed place when you're in touch with your emotions. So expression is one of the easiest ways for people to do that when they're not necessarily the best at formulating it in words. So writing might not be for you, but painting might be, or sculpting, or drawing, or cooking, or dancing, I mean, there's so many ways you can express yourself, and I think people get caught up in thinking that it has to be one way, but it can be something else. And there's so much beauty in the world, there's so much expression and creativity that even if you view yourself as someone not that creative, I highly implore you guys to experience with that if you're in your healing journey and you're looking for ways to heal. That isn't just candles and crystals and meditation and yoga, get a little deeper, meet yourself, come to terms with yourself, and process your emotions. Somatic release is something that's really beneficial that I don't think enough people talk about. Our body stores trauma, and finding exercises to release that trauma is extremely beneficial. I am a huge advocate for dancing, and one of my favorite things to tell people when they tell me they don't know how to dance is you don't have to. You don't have to know how to dance. Your body already knows how to move. You just got to let the music move you. Let it be your guide. Like, so many people get wrapped up in the idea of, oh, I'm going to look foolish. I'm going to look stupid. People are going to be looking at me and judging me. But when you come to the realization that everybody's thinking that way, it kind of gives you this power to be like, fuck it. I'm just going to do me. I'm going to enjoy my life, and the right people are going to find me that way. And I've always been a huge, advocate for that mindset. And I'd like to think that the more people spend time with me, the more they feel in touch with themselves, because I like to think I'm a safe space for people, and I give people the permission to be themselves. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but that's a big reason why I wanted to start this podcast, is because I wanted it to be a safe space where I could talk to you guys and communicate these messages and these thoughts that I have in a more cozy setting where we could be a little more intimate. And I do want you guys to write in with questions, with concerns, with, maybe some viewpoints of your own that you want to talk about. I'm also always looking for guests to come on the podcast, so if that's something that you're interested in, definitely email me at trippinwtrish@gmail.com, trippinwtrish@gmail.com. So shoot me a message. I definitely want to do a little Q&A, little Ask Trish segment. And, the more questions that come in, the better. So I'm an open book. My line is always open. Please feel free to reach out. And I'm always open to suggestions and collaborations. So I just wanted to shift the conversation to, once you find yourself and you're exploring and you're coming in touch with your emotions and you're processing trauma and grief and you're somatic releasing and you're doing all these things to meet yourself and truly heal from the things you've been through, it makes you feel like you're losing yourself in one way, but on the other side of it, you're finally meeting yourself. You're finally discovering who you are and what drives you, what motivates you, what you're passionate about. And the more in touch you are with yourself, the more you're going to find others who align with your morals and your viewpoints, and you'll be able to heal quicker when you're more in touch with who you are, if that makes sense. Because the more you choose yourself, the more you set healthy boundaries, the more you advocate for yourself and you find your own voice, the more you're going to be put in rooms with people on the same frequency, and you're going to be able to process things in a much healthier way because you're around other people that want the best for you, that know you, that can see the things that are wrong and help you through it even before you know that it's an issue. So, even going outside your comfort zone, doing things that scare you, to a certain degree, obviously, use caution, but usually on the other side of fear, there's something so beautiful. And some of the craziest things I've done in life have yielded the most incredible memories. I might get a little teary-eyed talking about this right now because I haven't talked too much about it publicly, but just talking about my marriage. We dealt with a lot of criticism at the beginning of our marriage, and everyone was telling me I was moving too fast, this, that, and the other. Like, yes, I agree with that. In hindsight, I can look back and say, you know, maybe I should have taken a little bit more time. Maybe I should have, you know, paced myself and not jumped head first and gotten to know my ex a little better. But I don't regret it. And I know a lot of people that know my situation and hear this might be surprised to hear that, but I'm such a stronger person on the other side of it. I mean, I'm 33 and I'm divorced. Like, I was completely content being alone before being married, and then I was in a relationship where I was starting to see a future with someone else. I was starting to see myself as a mother, and there was just so many things that I had to process after the relationship that was really hard to process. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say that I'm 100% better. I don't think you ever can be after something like that. It's always gonna stay with you, it's always gonna leave its mark, but I'm a true believer in everything happens for a reason, and I believe that that relationship was meant to push me to where I am now. And I don't regret it. I had some really beautiful memories. I surprised myself in the way that I showed up in that relationship. The only thing I can regret is not trusting myself sooner, because my intuition was screaming at me and I just didn't want to listen. And it took being completely broken down to finally choose myself and walk away. And I just hope that other people can hear my story and it can help them find the strength to make those tough decisions, because on the other side, it's so beautiful. Like, I was so afraid to let go, and I'm so much happier now. Like, I found my spark again. I had really lost it for a while there. And it's just a testament to how much you dull your shine for people and you don't even realize it. Like, I really was dimming my shine. And I took all the light I had and I gave it all to him, and he gave it away to everyone else, and that's just such a hard thing to sit with. But at the end of the day, I loved so hard and I gave everything I had. I just did it to the wrong person. And I'm really proud of myself for not letting that relationship destroy me. It got close, but I'm in therapy. I have a psychiatrist. I'm back on medication. So those are the ways that I had to heal myself, that I had to come to terms with, because a big part of me getting into natural healing was because I didn't want to be on medication. As someone who has a chemical imbalance in my brain, medication is important. You know, it helps stabilize, and I didn't want to admit that I needed it. But sometimes we have to have those hard conversations with ourselves, and we have to look at ourselves in a way that's honest and vulnerable. And I'm so glad that I got back on my meds, that I have a therapist and a psychiatrist, because I got really low there for a point, and your partner is supposed to help lift you up in those moments, and my partner was the source of that pain, of that sadness, of that depression. And, you know, spending time away from the situation has shown me that, because for the first few months, I had no desire, creativity block. Like, it was hard because expression is the way that I heal. And I'm finally at a place where I'm happy again. Like, I'm doing things I love. I have friends that I know care about me. I'm doing the things that I always wanted, even in that relationship, I published my poetry book. Like, I'm really proud of myself for that, because that was a dream for so long, and half of my poems were destroyed in Hurricane Ian, and that's what really pushed me to not do it for years. And finally, I was just like, I need to put this out. And it's just like this podcast. I've had this podcast idea since 2020, like the poetry book, and I'm finally putting it out. I'm finally doing it, and it might not be perfect. Like, I had some comments about the first episode, my setup. I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Obviously, I'm going to be upgrading equipment, but this is what I've got, and hopefully it's a lot better than the first one. The setup itself, I think, looks a lot better. Let me know what you guys think, any suggestions you have. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go over all those things. And the thing is that if you're in that same space, like, it's spring. Spring is known for spring cleaning. But have you ever thought about that in the way of yourself? Clearing out bad vibes, clearing out negativity, healing yourself so you can fully let go of the things weighing you down. So if you're in a season where things feel uncomfortable, that doesn't mean that you're lost. It means that you're evolving. And you're finding your way through the darkness. And I want to let you know on a personal level, even if you don't know me, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for waking up every morning. I'm proud of you for going to work or doing the things that you have to do throughout your day. I'm proud of you for getting dressed, taking a shower, brushing your teeth. A lot of times we want to be hard on ourselves when we don't do anything. But it's okay to listen to your body. It's okay to rest. It's okay to only take a shower and watch TV all day if that's all you can handle. Like, obviously don't live in that space. Like, it's not good to use that as an excuse to not do anything and stay in that hole, but give yourself permission to be easy on yourself. If you need a self-care day, take it. If you want to do your skin and your nails and your hair and just feel good, do it. If getting sushi and watermelon wine and smoking a joint in your pool is going to bring you happiness, do it. Because that's what I did, about a week ago. And it really helped. Like, a lot of times we get wrapped in, oh, well, I need to save this. I need to do that. I need to do that. I spent maybe $20 and I had such a good time. So I want to reiterate that it's okay to take some time for yourself to do the healing that isn't always the easiest, and do what you can. So I want to start ending these podcasts on a little thinker, like a question for you guys to kind of simmer on. And if you guys want to let me know your answers in the comments below, if you want to email me them, I can share them in the next episode. I can keep them anonymous, or I can share your name if you were wanting to do something like that. But my question for today is, ask yourself, what am I holding on to that I've already outgrown? Now, it sounds like a really simple question, But the more you think about it, the more it's like, damn, what am I holding on to that I've outgrown? And I'll answer first. I've definitely outgrown people pleasing. Just to bring this full circle, like, that was one of the hardest things for me to overcome and outgrow. And I'm really proud of myself for where I am right now, because there are times where I can be harsh and I can be quick to cut someone off. And, you know, as a good person, you're going to sit there and rationalize and question and doubt and consider, did I make the best move? Like, is this really what I should be doing? And sometimes you just got to trust your gut and your intuition and not feel bad about taking care of yourself first and foremost. So I think I'm going to wrap this up because it's getting to be like 36 minutes. I don't really want these podcast episodes to be too long, just because, you know, I am kind of sitting here talking to myself. And you can only do that for so long until I feel like it just isn't really entertaining anymore. But you guys let me know what you think. Is a like 40-minute podcast better than an hour? And also, I mentioned my podcast with my sister before. We are hoping to get back into podcasting, Twitch streaming, you know, vlogging. We really want to start ghost hunting. So if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing, let me know. But I'm going to start wrapping this up because, like I said, I don't want to keep you guys here for too long. But thank you for tripping with me today on Trippin' with Trish. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. And if you have a story or something on your heart, I'd love to hear from you. Like, genuinely, everything I do is motivated by connection. Because at the root of everything, connection is what helps me process things. It's what helps me feel not so alone. And everything I do is to connect either with others or with myself. And I think that that's a really important thing. So if you feel comfortable sharing your story with me, please do. If you want to keep it anonymous, I'm A-okay with that. I also want to promote one more thing. 2 years ago, before I got married, I had the idea to start doing documentaries. That's always been the thing that I've wanted to do the most with my content creation, with my experience in photography, videography, audio mixing, editing, all of it. It's the one thing that I've wanted to do more than anything. And I'm finally picking the project back up. I'm really excited. I have sent out the emails of all of the participants. It's going to be a documentary about love. And the interesting perspective about it is that I wrote a questionnaire that I sent out originally, and I answered all the questions. And 2 years later, I'm not in the same place I was. You know, when I first had the idea, I was getting ready to get married for the first time. And now I'm divorced. So very different headspaces, very different opinions and viewpoints. So it made me even more intrigued to get this passion project up off the ground. So if it's something that you would want to be a part of in any capacity, whether it be a participant on the documentary, whether it be someone to help me promote it, whether it be someone to help me film it, edit it, audio mix it, someone to help me manage, because I'm just not great at managing. I'm so good at the creative aspect, but when it comes to management and like business side, I'm not the greatest. So like I said, it is a passion project. I don't have a lot of funding for it. Pretty much doing everything on my own. So any help is appreciated, and I'm really excited about this project because it's going to be me interviewing bunch of people about their experience with love and what they've done in the pursuit of it and how they feel about it. So definitely stay on the lookout for that. Gonna shout out one more project. I have a lot of things going on, and I'm actually proud of myself that I'm picking these projects back up and actually doing them. So I have a five song EP that I'm wanting to release. I think I mentioned it in the last podcast, but it's called Stages. It's about the 5 stages of grief. It's going to coincide with the next poetry book I have coming out, so I'm excited for everything coming. So stay tuned, and I really appreciate you guys. Remember, your peace is your superpower. Stay lifted, stay aligned, and keep tripping with me. But that's it, guys. I really appreciate you. Ooh. And have a great day. And I'll see you in the next one. Like I said, I'm going to try and be more consistent with it. If not every week, every other week. I know this one was cutting it a little close, but here we are. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay high.